Ophanim is the name of a specific system of physical postures and internal exercises based on the Hebrew alphabet and the Jewish mystical tradition known as the Kabbalah. Ophanim works simultaneously as physical exercise, meditation of the mind, breathing practice, and the renewal of internal energy.
One thing to keep in mind is that the practice in the Ophanim is quite specific. There is a physical pose, there's a breathing we do, there's also a kind of mental focus on the body. We sort of draw our attention through the body as we breathe. We're also doing a kind of mental vocalization. I grew up basically with no background in Judaism, and I came back to Judaism through a study of pretty much almost all philosophies, all religions, all psychologies, and so on. From a Jewish perspective now, I see that these things are all in a way included in Judaism. So I don't find any great contradiction between having, so to say, learned a great deal from these other systems and yet feel quite confident being at home in Judaism and with the practices and the teachings in Judaism. I was taught a system of meditation in the Jewish tradition, and from the same source basically, quite surprisingly, because someone just asked a question one day to our teacher, and the answer, is there such a thing as yoga in Judaism? And very surprisingly, he answered, yes, there is. And he proceeded to show us on the spot several of the Hebrew letters done as yoga poses. According to the mystical tradition in Judaism, the letters have a tremendous power. They say that they, so to say, contain within them worlds, they contain within them godliness, they contain within them souls. The idea is that too, the letters are not just forms, the letters are also more like ideas or sort of principles of creation. So a letter has a physical form, but it also has a number, for example. Aleph, for example, the first letter is also equivalent to the number 1. So it implies a unity. It's not simply a form, which of course it has as we use it in writing and in text and so on, but it also has a meaning. Aleph is a letter, so to say, that connects heaven and earth. So Aleph looks like this. Aleph has, so to say, one hand up, touching the heavens, one hand down, going toward the earth, which is the water element, and the basic line here between the leg and the chest is the connection that makes this bridge between heaven and earth. As you go down through the 22 letters, each one has particular kinds of meanings in terms of its numerical value, symbolic values, references to certain qualities in the human body, for example. Certain internal organs relate to certain letters and so on. Now, this is true physically. It's also true in terms of emotional qualities, mental qualities. For every quality that exists, especially in relation to the human being, there is a letter that underlies that quality. And if you want to, so to say, cultivate that quality or heal that quality in particular, you go back to the letter as a pose in certain combinations, and this is a way to restore the energy to that aspect of a person. The human body itself is in fact the original source for all the shapes of the Hebrew letters. If I'm sitting in the letter Mem, that's how the letter Mem is going to be written. But we understand that God actually is a sort of a structure of creation, which we call sometimes the tree of life. It's actually, so to say, 10 phases of creation, or 10 states by which the world comes into being. And these actual states or stages of the creation are in fact represented in the human body itself. But in the human body, they are, so to say, represented in the head and the two sides of the brain, the right arm, the left arm, the torso, the two legs, the genital area, and from here down to the feet. God is nowhere else but in us. Every letter that we do is taking these various centers and arranging them in a certain way. Certain of these places are always together. For example, the head is one. The head has a center that surrounds the entire head, plus a right and the left side of the brain. This never goes anywhere, never moves. But the arms and the legs, for example, can move. They can be expanded, they can be contracted. The body can be extended. We can stretch out to touch the sky. We can be down on the ground. We can be in between. The reason why we do it actually is because it conveys what we call a spark of new vitality. So that with every breath we take, we bring life into the poses. In the case of Ophanim, we really have, in a sense, for the first time in probably a few thousand years, an actual return of the physical aspect of working with the letters in Judaism, because we've certainly understood working with the letters from the point of view of meditation. We certainly understood singing the letters, contemplating the letters, and doing many things like this. But to actually physically return to this aspect of it is a very new thing. The Kabbalah very often speaks about The body is meant to be included, in fact, in the whole notion of holiness. It's not meant to be excluded whatsoever. Eventually, everything's supposed to be one. That the body is really just a sort of extension of the soul. And one thing that is available to anyone to experience, that as we do this practice, so to say, the soul-like qualities tend to take over the body. The body becomes much less physical, becomes much more unified with the breathing and with sort of a mind and so on.